So this is now the third episode, I think, something like that. So I'm probably got a little bit further than what I thought I would have done with this recording of the things that go on within our agency and my life. So on we go. So this covers what we did week commencing the 28th of January 2019. So on Monday we looked at did some more investigations in terms of getting more temporary labour to cover things to do with installations and things in if we're going to use them for packing and the like, and again some interesting candidates still left from the original Facebook advert. So I rang a couple of the ones who seemed most likely to be suitable for us based on initial looks at people's Facebook profiles, which can kind of give some kind of indication as to what the person may or may not be like. And they say you can't judge a book by its cover, but sometimes possibly that may give you an indication to what the person is like for those people who have open Facebook profiles, possibly something to think about. So yeah, on the basis that I was going to have somebody, I was going to be doing some installations on Thursday that week, I did look to see whether we could get somebody in at short notice that could come along with me and help me with the installation, cut down the installing time. Thought that we might have been in luck with a guy who had a bit of a hard luck story, I suppose you could say, and I'm always not so much a sucker for a sob story, but I believe that people they may not have done the right things early on in their lives, but that doesn't mean to say that you can't give them you shouldn't necessarily write them off, and you should really give them a chance to prove themselves. Unfortunately, it turned out that there was a bit of a crossover in history with Wend and when she was at school. So it turned out that it wasn't the person who I was going to take along with me who was up for it. I wasn't able to offer them the chance that I was hoping to, but sometimes that's just the way things plan out over time. If you do something wrong, it could come back to haunt you in weird ways later on in life. So yeah, a bit sad, but I think what we'll probably end up doing is, I think if we'll probably put another kind of advert out on Facebook and look for people who are probably, I don't know, calling it handy or good with DIY, that kind of thing. It's that kind of practical, hands-on kind of get stuck in person that we could probably do with some more of those to be available at short notice. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of people who are no longer, I don't know, well, we do know some of Wendy's friends, for example, who have retired quite early, but equally, just want to have a purpose and want to help. And it's not really, because they've already got a decent pension and all the rest of it, it's not really about the money for them, it's just about the feeling the worth of doing a job with other people. So I think that'll be something that I will probably look to do this week. Tuesday was an interesting one because we had the first bits of snow was supposed to be coming down, but it didn't really amount to very much. Just a couple of little flakes at that particular time, which was pretty good, really. We had our first meeting with Claire, a lady called Claire Suff. She has a physiotherapy business, and we think we can we think we can help her grow that business through social media marketing and paid ads that go with them. So we although we did the original website for I think towards the end of last year, and she's done really great. Interestingly, off the back of organic Facebook reach, she hasn't done anything in the way of paid. So we sat her down. We got Kat to interview her, and also Josh as well. So we filmed this, and the idea is that we've got a long form video that explains that we can cut up and then remarket on various social channels. And we're just now waiting for I think a fact sheet that she's producing that hopefully we should get this week, and then that will be used as part of a remarketing approach. So that's where somebody will watch the video and get part of the way through, so that shows they are relatively interested, and then what will happen is they will then be served the same kind of adverts again, because they've already shown an interest in it. So she's kind of, you could call it our, I don't know, I like to think of it as being a guinea pig along with ourselves in terms of the effective nature of this paid advertising on social media. So that you're quite interested. Kat also had some good news this week. Who works for us? She's the girl who runs the DPC podcast, and she's been invited to speak at an event in Nottingham. So that's all good to her. Glad she's got getting some traction in terms of awareness and stuff. So Wednesday was definitely a bit of a surprise in the morning, because although snow was forecast, sometimes when you look out, it's still a surprise when you see everything out there and it's still it's all covered in white. So that was the day that I was supposed to be going to the Moto Supplier Conference, and Jess was coming with me, who works with me this year, and she was originally going to drive, but with the amount of snow that was down, I thought it was probably a better idea if I did it. Just because if anything happened, we got snowed in, or there was any damage to the car, then I didn't want it to be on my conscience that it was done for a work job. So I prepped for all the things I would normally take with me. It seems ridiculous now thinking how little snow there was, but basically I had two pieces of carpet to put under the wheels just in case we got stuck. We went in the Scirocco, which is a front wheel drive car, rather than BMW, which is a rear wheel drive car. I took with us sleeping bags, coats, scarf, food, drink, water, literally almost like a complete boot full of stuff. So as it happens, as is mostly the case, usually the whole thing about snow is that the side roads that you're on are the worst thing, and then pretty much once you pass that, then the roads are clear by the traffic. The roads are clear by the traffic anyway, so once you've literally taken it easy on that very side road and just crept along, then you can pretty much get anywhere. So although I must admit, actually, when we were coming into work and it was snowy, I was driving the Scirocco and Wend was directly behind me in the BMW, and I could see that was definitely struggling getting up even what was quite a gentle slope. But I guess that's the thing with a rear wheel drive BMW, although it does have this magic button that is a DSC thing on it, which I think it does something where it like alternates the power between the two back wheels, which gives you a little bit more traction rather than two spinning at the same time. But you can only use that for very short periods of time at low speeds, I think. But anyway, it didn't end up being anything that held us back. We had Cat's annual review, which went really well, and we had some more discussions about where we think, how we think the business may well change and how teams may well change. So it was good to see, what Kat was thinking about that. She's a very talented individual. We're very, very blessed and lucky to have lots of people in our business who are, just amazing people to work with, and great workers as well, funnily enough. So Wednesday, obviously in the afternoon I went to the conference, got there on time. I think it was about maybe 5:30, and it's good to see, it's good to see the clients face to face, and it's always good to have that kind of interaction and see what's going on, when you wouldn't necessarily have the time to just chat about yourself and what you've been up to. So that was good. Managed to get about, I think I gave myself, I had a quick power nap. I think it was about 10 or 11 minutes just before I went out for the evening, knowing it was going to be in for the long haul, just to make sure I was freshened up. It was good. It was a good conference. People were very. It's good. It has a runway set up on it where people walk down when they get their events, and it was slightly odd in that in previous years I've always got up and given awards, but usually I'm told or pre-warned that I'm going to be giving awards. So I was kind of sat down thinking, okay, well, looks like I'm not going to give an award out this year. I was thinking, oh God, this doesn't bode well, kind of thing. And then next thing you know, it's I see our logo on the bottom, and Vic Appleton, I think it was something for BK, I think it was something along those lines, and I got called to the stage, and it was like, oh no, I'm not prepared for this, because obviously you never know what kind of name, if you're going to have to read something out, it could be a name. I'm not very good at pronouncing things at the best of times, but with names it could be something that I could have absolutely no clue about. But as it happens, it was lucky the company, or I should say the site that won was Knutsford North. I think the guy's name was Dan Crawford, so luckily it was well within my ability to be able to speak that one. I did. I don't know, I did get me a chance to go, I think, what did I say now, something like, and the winner is Dan Crawford, and I think I said come on Dan, which is like a really old saying from The Price is Right, dating back to the 1880s or something like that, which probably seemed funny to me at the time, but I don't think most other people probably would have picked up on it. But anyway, it is what it is. So got to mingle around, talk to lots of people about about themselves, what they're up to, just gauge how they're feeling. It's a bit of a strange time for Moto as a company at the moment, because they've gone from having a CEO that's been with them for the past 20 plus years to then having a new guy, and then it's kind of what is he like as a person. I mean, difficult to know, I would say, but certainly to me, if you're going to have somebody who's running the company, would you rather have somebody who's a nice and positive guy, or would you rather have somebody who is leading through power and threats and all the rest of them, people being frightened? Fortunately, he seems to be like a nice guy. Managed to bump into him on when I think he was just on his way out and leaving, and he was walking down the red carpet and I was walking the other way. Just basically said to him that he did a really good keynote speech. I think he made possibly some promises that I don't think he probably pre-agreed. So he's suggesting that the conference as it normally has, the awards evening, that all the Moto kind of sites go, or representatives from all the sites go, and it's a bit of a team building thing. But then he was suggesting that next year he wants the suppliers to come along as well, which I'm well and truly all for it, but I don't know whether let's say Jess, who came with me this year, I'm not sure whether she would come, or whether even, say for example, whether Elliot would be up for doing some kind of team thing, which I think this year was just some kind of Indian, like Bollywood style dancing. I can't dance the same to save my life and what have you, so I'd literally, if it's anything like that, and it will be something that's like like one of these stereotypical team building games, then definitely I'm definitely going to be making a bit of an idiot of myself. But hey, I'm sure there are going to be plenty of other people there who are also going to be making idiots of themselves. So if that is the case, then I will go. When I'm looking at maybe other suppliers, I ask myself, I'm thinking, God, would they actually go to that? I'm thinking probably not. So it will be interesting to see how that one pans out. He also did. He got to speak a little bit about his own charity. So it was a way of raising awareness about how the amount of children who are malnourished in the UK and are going to school and not had breakfasts and things like that. So it was it was quite an interesting one. He was also talking about the targets that they were hoping to raise through their own in-house charity. So I think they'd set themselves a target to earn £800,000, of which I think half goes to Help for Heroes, and then he said that he wanted to do more and actually push that to raising £1 million, which is a very it's an interesting proposition. I think it's doable, but I think they're probably going to have to change maybe some things that they do, and maybe be a bit braver, whether that be I would imagine some kind of, when you're doing your transaction over the till with a card, something that asks people if they want to donate, and literally brings it presents to mind, because there's some people who probably will donate if they were actually given the opportunity to do that. I guess the question is that will that create kind of like friction for customers in terms of, just want to put my pin in and go, and then it's no, I've got to navigate my way through some kind of charity donation or something along those lines. So yeah, it's an interesting one with that. I think I've probably got some ideas that would probably help them, whether they're I'll have to share them, I think, with them. So anyway, the night did go on. I always look, I think it's kind of, the mentality for me is that as an agent or an agency, somebody within the agency should be there to represent and be around and be, drinking and buying drinks till early doors, call it old fashioned or what you want, but it's certainly the way that, that was the ethos that I was conditioned to do. So I think I stayed down there till 3 o'clock, knowing that if I was getting up at 8, then that would give me, that would give me 5 hours sleep, which is a little bit less than I would normally go for, but I knew it would give me plenty of sleep for what I would need to be able to function pretty okay for the following day. So on the Thursday, which is the 31st, on the way driving back from the conference, I must admit there was no more snow on the day, but the car was literally frozen solid. But it was just a question of just turning it on and warming it up. And the drive back, it was very pretty, quite misty and foggy, but you could see all the trees were covered in white frost and what have you. So it's just had that kind of atypical Christmas card type look on the way back, which was good. I think we got back to the office maybe about, what time did I leave? About 9, yeah, probably about 11 o'clock, something like that. I came back at home, and first, before I went into the office to unload the massive amount of stuff that I'd taken with me. Also, something like pretty major for me happened on Thursday. Danny works for us on the website of things. He recommended a podcast, a Joe Rogan podcast, which is, I think it's 119 with a guy called 1109 with a professor on sleep called, I don't know, I think his name is Matthew or something along those lines. So I listened to it. It's a 2-hour podcast, and pretty much it's made me make a fundamental change in that I'm going to make sure that I give myself 7 hours sleep, which means that I'm kind of, you might be able to tell in the background that I'm kind of filming this a little bit later than I would normally do. So instead of getting up at 4:30, I'm getting up at 5:30 now. So that's taking my sleep up from 6 to 7 hours. And apparently, this guy was saying that if you get in 6 hours a night, which seemed perfectly fine to me, that you're actually doing a lot of damage long term to you. So you're increasing your risk of things like cancer, bowel cancer, as bizarre as it sounds, and also dementia as well, the onset of dementia. And he pointed to people, I think it was Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan, who were leaders of prime ministers or respective leaders of the country. They were big on kind of like only needing 4 hours sleep to be able to work. That was the message they gave. Now, interestingly, both those people also died of dementia-related illnesses. So it does make you think, well, okay, if you're given a choice of what am I going to lose across a week? Well, it doesn't really matter for the weekend, but certainly during the week that would give me, I'm losing 5 hours, but possibly maybe it might be more effective for the hours that I'm awake. This is kind of like the first day that I've woken up on a weekday with it, and it really puzzles me, or it really does puzzle me that you can become so like hardwired to timings. And when I woke this morning, naturally I did wake up at 4:30 and I was ready to go, and that's literally after having days of over the weekend. I was certainly lying until, like, I think it was Sunday, I lied until 10 o'clock after getting up to feed the dogs. I went to lie down on the couch with the blanket and literally slept till 10 o'clock, which gave me, funny enough, that gave me out 8 hours, because I think I'd gone to bed at 2, so that was like eight hours sleep. So we'll see. I'll let you, I think I'll probably try and keep an eye on it and see whether I think it's made any difference. And I think the thing is, whatever you do, if I'd have stayed on of getting up at 6 hours or getting up with 7 hours sleep, you're never really going to know one way or the other if it had made a difference. But the podcast did seem to give some very, very definite evidence in terms of the positives for having 7 hours worth of sleep. So there we go. I think I also posted it, had it added to the show and tell this week, which is a little kind of like weekly update that we give, or that Kat does for us at the end of the week. Try to encourage other people to do the same. I think the main thing is, to get the sleep, you've got to go to bed early enough. So if you're playing on an Xbox or something like that till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and then what time do you get up after that to get the 7 hours sleep? On Thursday, at the conference, after the conference, we also found out that to do on the house that house purchase that we're looking to make, Legal and General, had been instructed by NatWest, who were looking to lend the mortgage, to go out and to get the surveyor to do the visit. and literally assess where the property's worth the money. So I think that should be happening. May have happened on Friday of last week, or I think it might be early this week, like Monday or Tuesday this week. I did. On the Thursday when I came back, I sent a few emails off the back of conversations that I'd had on the Thursday at the conference. Some of them are to people within Moto, and other ones are to do with other companies that are related to them. Just find it an interesting, even if I think that I possibly don't know obviously I don't know everything there is to know about social media marketing and how to apply it, then it's quite interesting seeing that compared to other people that they're just not even aware of it at all. So the massive amount of hours that I've invested, like listening to all these podcasts, I think really does help. So on Friday last week I had to be up early. So on that particular one I was up at 5, so a little bit more sleep, but not enough. I did some emails and what have you, waiting to work, and I was on the road at 6:30. I had some to do an installation of, again, more of these toilet poster frames at Frankly Services. So that was a long day. Didn't get back home till 9:30 at night. But the good thing is, when I'm doing these kind of jobs that you would find monotonous, I use that time effectively to listen to podcasts. So there was a particularly one from Gary Vee that it was like a 6-hour podcast, which is really long for a podcast, usually about maybe an hour. And I've certainly gone back and re-listened to quite a few points where he's made from that. I think they've filmed a lot more content or released a lot more content, so there was probably a few little nuances that maybe I hadn't picked up before. So again, I've just been making notes of those and always refer back to the episode, even though it doesn't really seem to have an episode number as such, and the time that he refers to things, because I think there are some really good ideas for things that I think would work for clients of ours and for us that we're going to do. I know certainly this week I want to do some direct filming to advertise to particular areas, our courier services. So that's something that I intend to do this week, given a chance. I also got to listen to another one, I think it was Cat's 18th, the Dead Parent podcast. I also listened to the latest Studio Sherpa one, which is like a Studio Sherpas is a videography podcast, and that one was about a chap who'd taken the leap to go from going from working for somebody else to going freelance, which is I don't know. I think they're called solo entrepreneurs, I think, something like that. Or basically, you're an entrepreneur, but you're working for yourself. I think it's probably like a little bit of a posher name of just saying that you're self-employed. So yeah, interesting. Friday night, funnily enough, I was able to sit down and watch a bit of television. I think we watched The Hangover, because we did, which is a great film, very, very funny. So watched that. Ironically, didn't fall asleep. I guess I probably wasn't. Although not a physically hard job, I wasn't exactly mentally tired. So that's possibly why I didn't fall asleep. Saturday, I had a bit of a lie-in. When the dogs will tend to bark early on in the morning, even though they're fast asleep now. They'll tend to bark early on in the morning, so she came down and continued to have a sleep down here, which stops them going mad and barking and stuff. So that was quite good. Had a bit of a lie in there. That was nice. Went back into work and dropped off emptied all the rubbish out of the car. Seems a bit ludicrous sometimes going installing the BMW, but I'll tell you one thing it does have is a massive boot in it, and you can literally put a massive amount of stuff in there. So yeah, like I say, probably not as practical as a van, but yeah, it does the job, and nice and comfortable as well. Saturday, caught up on most of the emails that I'd missed on Friday when I was being at work. Also went on and did the social media updates on things like my Facebook and LinkedIn, and also spent quite a bit of time looking at Instagram and Instagram TV, which is just such an odd concept. So you kind of like swipe to the left, and you get these short on Instagram television, IGTV. You get these short mini clips, which may be obviously it's been served for things that it thinks I like, so it keeps sending me these like random DIY things. So it may be like a tool that you'd hook nails out of a wall, and then they have this woman that can't do it, but she has this kind of thing where she does she does like optical illusions, but they're all like really short, so you watch them. I don't know, it must be suitable for people who just have maybe like just want to watch something a short clip or something that's over, because all these videos or whatever from like maybe 15, I don't know, 20 seconds up to like a minute or maybe a couple of minutes, and then it's funny because it watches how far through you've watched these videos. So I guess from that it's obviously must be learning what things you like to watch. So that's probably why it's showing me more I don't know, either DIY tips or what was another one I watched? How to make I think it was a butterscotch like Knickerbocker Glory or something like that. So I'll probably end up being served a lot more of those. I can definitely see again how there's a lot of static stuff obviously on Facebook. It's pictures and stuff like that, the occasional videos, but I could see how you could quite easily sit and just watch video after video after video. I mean, it seems to be no end to it. In fact, on the Saturday night when we went out, and I was supposed to be collecting about midnight on the Saturday night, I think I'd just got watching it. I hadn't really realised just how much the time had flown by, so I think it was about 12:30 before I remembered that I needed to check and see whether she needed collected, which just goes to show how literally your passage of time just goes like that when you're watching these things on your social media feeds. Sunday was a nice day. Got up again early on through the dogs, let them out for them to do the stuff, gave them the food, and then like I say, I went through to the front room and slept then, and I didn't think I'd get any sleep. The dogs come through to the front room as well, and I slept through till 10 o'clock, and that's after going to bed. I think it was around 2, so that was a good 8 hours. I watched on the Saturday night, I watched Star Trek, the first Star Trek with the boys, sat down and watched that, but I don't know, for some reason or other kept on like falling asleep, so I must have had an absolute shed load of sleep on Saturday through to Sunday. Although again, after watching this podcast that I'd seen on sleeping, it's not like they said the body will store fat, obviously as you can see with my boobs and what have you. The body can store fat, but it can't store sleep. So you can't, let's say you cut sleep, and let's say you're down 8 hours on your sleep, and then you have an extra long lie-in or something like that at the weekend, you will not get back those 8 hours, or you certainly get some back, but you won't get all the amount of rest. So you have to get the rest every night, and maybe obviously then top it up with some more rest at the weekend. But you can't create a big deficit where you have this kind of, there's no kind of sleep reserve or something like that. You can get a good night's rest, but you can't kind of like knowing that, say for example, I might have to cut my sleep on a particular night. It's not like you can have a few nights up to that point where you're having extra sleep, and then somehow or other that makes up for you not having the sleep. Unfortunately, it doesn't really work like that. I wish it did, but it doesn't. Sunday was Sherry's, who's my mother-in-law, it was their 66th birthday, so went round to them. They had, she'd done some kind of a buffet, took dogs for a walk as we normally do with mum and dad. But it's nice, and it was, yeah, a nice crisp weather, a little bit of rain, but you know, just only spit and stuff, so that was good. And then came back and went back to Sherry's party, and everybody else had gone, but we were able to sit down and, you know, just have a few nibbles of some crisps and dips and stuff like that. Also on Sunday was the first time I'd actually posted anything on Instagram, I think. There's a tree stump. It's going to sound really bizarre, but there's a tree at the end of our road that I drive past every day and think, you know, the way that the trees ended up being cut, the stump always reminds me of a schnauzer's face for some reason or other. So I went on Sunday morning and walked up the road to the tree, took a picture of it and cropped it, and then put it on the Instagram feed. And what did I put it? Yeah, put like a hashtag schnauzer on it, just really to see what had happened. And yeah, it was nice. Obviously, the people who I work with, I think a few of those had liked the post, which is nice, I guess. And then this was the interesting thing. I wanted to see where the people from, I don't know, people who had, you know, an interest in schnauzers, whether anybody would see it or like it. And sure enough, there was. I mean, we're not talking like, oh yeah, I got whatever, hundreds of likes or anything like that. I think it was like less than, I think it may be something like 5, but it was interesting to see that there were people on there who then see that you've posted something, and then they then follow you. So it's if they do that for just one photograph, God knows like how crazy the feed must be. But anyway, I followed quite a lot more people on Instagram this week, so not just like the people who I work with, but also schnauzers, because obviously I've got 2 schnauzer dogs. So I don't know, it's just kind of more entertaining to see the pictures of see pictures of dogs as much as anything else. So yeah. Anyway, so this week's a bit of a pivotal week in terms of, I think we'll find out where the mortgage that we're looking for on this new property, whether it will come through. So I spent quite a bit of Sunday night doing a bit more of the detail and looking at the sizes of various properties that we've been looking at through this whole process. You know, what the cost was to either rent or to buy these places, and just trying to extract some kind of an indication of, you know, how much value this property that we're looking at delivers. And to be fair, it does seem to be priced pretty competitively, which is great. especially when you separate off the value of the house versus then you take the value of the house and then subtract that from what you're paying, and therefore you're then left with a different amount, and that's the figure that we looked at to say, okay, well, you get all this commercial space for this much money, and it does seem to offer I would say really good value for money. There is this question of what do you, if the plot is 6 acres and it's greenbelt land, what can you actually do with it? You can't put any structure on it. You can, even if you're growing something on it, you can't even put these kind of cloches or polytunnels, I think they're called. And it's what on earth can you do with greenbelt land? So that is a puzzle, other than having sheep graze on it, which of course you could do, which interestingly enough as well, we'd also heard through some third parties that I think the current owner is maybe paying basically the gardener's bills were massive for I think they class the garden as part of certainly in one half of the road it's got green fields which need mowing, so I think that would probably account for it, but I don't know, I'm certainly puzzled on just exactly what we can do with that land. I really don't know. I don't know. Is it just why do you have all this land? Is it just for vanity? So it is a bit of a puzzle, really. Anyway, I think it doesn't pay to. Although it pays to prepare and to think about these things, I'm certainly after what happened when we were looking at purchasing Brook Farm and how that all kind of came unravelled, and a deal which was allegedly all nailed on and yes, it was going to happen, didn't turn out to be anything. I think this time round I'm a lot more not so much cautious, but just kind of I'm certainly not counting chickens or anything. I'm just going to take each step as it comes, and we'll see how it goes. One thing I forgot to mention was on Tuesday, we had some mortgage application forms to fill in, and it's one of these forms where kind of you have a progress bar along the top, so it'll say kind of it makes it look like you've got 5 or 6 steps, and you fill that in, but then once you've done that, then you've got another 5, and it doesn't really give you an indication of how long you were going on. And I think you could say I definitely had a paddy over it after about 2 3/4 hours of answering the most in-depth questions you could. Well, they're asking about things that that even I don't know the answers to. And I like to think I'm pretty organised, but after 2 3/4 hours, that was it. I just literally down tools. I said that's it. I've literally completely had enough now, and I literally went to bed. I think I went to bed. I think it was 9:45. I was just like right, that's it. I've completely had enough. Luckily, when did finish the forms and did submit them, so. God, all this form filling in, and they're asking all these questions, and I think it's because for most people, obviously, if you're on a salary, you'll tend to work to a budget, or certainly we always used to work to a budget when it was just myself and when earning. Whereas it's slightly different for us, so I'll try and avoid spending on anything at all, just to try and keep as much money and liquidity within the business, and that's always a constant battle, because obviously Wen's always looking to spend more and get more value out of it. You know, the truth of it is, if you don't take drawings or dividends or take money out of the business, then it doesn't look good in terms of the mortgage lenders, because they'll go, okay, well, how much are you taking out? And then they use that to then try and see whether you can afford what you're looking to borrow. And I think last year we did take a lot more out of it, because we had, you know, finances to put right, and obviously, well, last year we went to Disney and stuff. I think that, you know, in a curious way, I think that actually probably helps. But again, we'll just have to see. So anyway, we should find out this week. So onwards we go again. So till next week. Cheers then.